Terrified 7-year-old boy hides in bathroom with sister, calls 911 and yells, "Bring cops, lots of them." We all like to think that we'd be able to remain calm and courageous in a desperate situation. However, the truth is that most of us would end up losing our nerves and act rashly because of the fear we feel. Fortunately, that was not the case of young Carlos, a 7-year-old boy who faced a terrible event and managed to show that a person's age does not always determine his courage. What this little boy achieved in just a few minutes will leave you open-mouthed. Carlos Ramirez was a perfectly normal 7-year-old boy living in the cozy and secluded town of Norwalk, California. The boy lived a quiet life with his parents, Mrs. Margarita and Mr. Jose Ramirez, and his 6-year-old sister Emma. Carlos's parents owned a small downtown coffee shop called Gold Espresso. It was one of the most beloved coffee shops in the community and had been going strong for years. Everyone knew the Ramirez family and they had never been in trouble with any of their neighbors and customers. It was impossible to imagine what this hardworking and friendly family would have to go through in just a few weeks. The boy loved spending time at the coffee shop and helping his parents in any way he could. Of course, his mother would tell him that it was still too early to work with them and that they could get in trouble with the authorities if anyone noticed that there was a minor serving coffee. But nothing could keep him away from there, and even if he could only be behind the bar or in the kitchen, helping with the cleaning and the preparation of some desserts, for Carlos it was more than enough. His dream was to become a successful pastry chef and being able to spend time with his mother and watch her bake all kinds of delicious desserts that made him immensely happy. "Carlos, how many times do I have to tell you should be at home doing your homework? You have to study, honey. The time will come when you can bake your own cakes, but you're too little for that now. Go home, sweetie. Grandma's with your sister and you have a piece of chocolate peanut cake waiting for you in the fridge. Come on, run." His mother would tell him every afternoon, trying to dissuade him from the idea of cooking alongside her, every time she found him sneakily reading his old recipe books. "Someday I'll prove to you that my dream of being a cook's not a fantasy and it's never too early to start. I promise you, Mom. I'm gonna go now because you asked me to and because I can't wait to try that pie, but you won't get rid of me so easily. I'll be back. I love you, Mom. See you tonight." Carlos gave his mother a big kiss on the cheek and ran out the window with his school bag slung over one shoulder. That was the family's usual routine. There was nothing out of the ordinary about the Ramirez's marriage. Both were model parents who had earned the appreciation and respect of those who knew them honestly. And their 2 children, only 7 and 6 years old, have never been involved in any kind of trouble. Hard to imagine 2 children that young doing anything against the law, honestly. In fact, Carlos was one of the best students in his class, and Emma was an adorable little girl who could only think about playing and spending time with her family. Both were incapable of hurting anyone. However, despite being a lovely, hardworking family with no criminal record, the Ramirez had to face one of the worst experiences anyone could ever face in their lives. One of those in which your life hangs by a thread and you're capable of doing anything to survive and protect your loved ones. However, the hero of this story is not Carlos's parents or any police officer. The protagonist of our story and the real savior of the Ramirez family was none other than young Carlos, who in a totally unexpected way had to face a life or death situation. The boy had to act quickly because his life and that of his parents depended on it, and so he did. It all happened on a day like any other day in Norwalk. It was a holiday, which meant that the entire Ramirez family was at home. Everything was going well. Margarita, Carlos's mother, was serving the delicious chocolate pancakes she'd prepared for breakfast, while the others waited impatiently in their seats for the first bite. But that moment never came. Suddenly, 3 masked men armed with assault rifles burst into the house, forcing open the door. It was a small neighborhood where everyone knew each other and there had never been any robberies, so the door was unlocked. Big mistake. It all happened in a matter of seconds. The family went from calmly eating breakfast in the kitchen to being cornered in their kitchen with 3 mysterious men threatening to shoot them if they didn't do as they were told. The masked men cornered the parents at gunpoint, forcing them to kneel on the floor while pleading for their lives. "Please have mercy. I don't know what you want, but we're not rich. We're humble workers. We have a coffee shop downtown, but nothing more. You have the wrong family. We'll give you everything we have, whatever we have, but don't kill us," pleaded Mr. Ramirez with his hands tied behind his back. His wife was at his side, crying nonstop. "Shut up. We're the ones who talk here. Be quiet or I'll kill you," said one of the assailants while hitting him on the chin with the butt of his gun. Everything seemed to be getting out of control by the minute. The assailants were getting more and more nervous, and it seemed that at any moment they were going to open fire. They emptied all the closets and drawers in search of valuables but found little. The family could afford to live in a nice house, but they weren't rich, far from it. Realizing they'd raided the wrong house, the attackers became very nervous and the situation became much more tense. But what they didn't count on was that in the house lived one of the bravest and fastest children ever seen. Hearing the door fall down, Carlos acted quickly and was able to grab his 6-year-old sister and flee up the stairs without being seen. They locked themselves in the bathroom, and thanks to having practiced emergency situations with his mother, the 7-year-old knew exactly what to do. While the intruders were still downstairs harassing his parents, Carlos called 911 and his call changed everything. As authorities later reported during his 911 call, Carlos said, "There are guys in my house, they broke in. They're gonna kill my mom and dad. Can you come, please? Please come really fast. They're gonna kill us all." Monique Patino, a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy, was on the other end of the line. She later admitted that the call was horrible and that she still shudders at the sound of Carlos's sister's screams on the other end of the phone. Carlos told Monique that the unknown men had guns and were gonna shoot her mother and father. "Bring policemen, lots of them," the boy pleaded, trying to speak quietly so as not to be discovered. During the call, his little sister could be heard crying as the boy speaks before things took a turn for the worse and Carlos had to cut off communication with the police. Monique was trying to calm Carlos down, assuring him that the police were on their way and that they would be safe soon, but then the call was abruptly interrupted by the screams of the two children. "Carlos, are you there? Are you still with me? It's the assailants, they've discovered you? Carlos, answer. If you hear me, answer," shouted the police on the other end of the phone as they realized the boy and his sister had been discovered and their lives were in grave danger. They were running out of time and didn't know if the police would arrive in time to prevent the worst. It turned out the armed assailants had noticed someone else was in the house. The parents said nothing, and when asked about the children who were in all the photographs, they lied they were at a relative's for a weekend. "My children aren't here, it's just me and my wife in the house. I assure you, you won't find anything up there. Please take whatever you want and don't hurt us," begged Carlos's father to the assailants, realizing they were going to discover her children's hiding place. However, the one who appeared to be the boss didn't believe it and ordered the others to go upstairs to look for them. It took them only 5 minutes to realize Carlos and his sister were locked in the bathroom. It was an agonizing few seconds. The whole house was silent, and Carlos hugged his little sister tightly, trying to hold his breath. Then there was a loud bang and the bathroom door came down. There they found Carlos and his little sister and asked him who they'd been talking to. In fear, Carlos had forgotten to hide a phone so they wouldn't realize what his plans were. However, instead of continuing to try to trick them and trying to run away, the boy did something truly amazing. He bravely admitted he'd called the police. "I just spoke to a police officer. I don't think it'll take them more than 5 minutes to get here. You won't have time to run away. They'll catch you and you'll spend the rest of your time in jail," Carlos told him with a defiant tone without letting go of his sister. The three men's reaction was even more surprising. After hearing that the police were about to arrive at the house, the men ran downstairs and alerted the chief what was happening. In less than a minute, the three thugs quickly fled without taking anything with them, fleeing in what police believe was an old stolen gray Acura. Had it not been for the brave and polite actions of the 7-year-old boy, this could have ended tragically. "The courage shown by that child is worthy of a merit badge. I'm very impressed," said Captain Pat Maxwell of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The police arrived 5 minutes later. Carlos's mother and younger sister were taken to the hospital because of the state of nervousness and anxiety in which they found themselves. The health workers who went with the police also offered psychological help to Carlos and his father, but they claimed to be well. Carlos only wished that that day would end and that the nightmare they had just lived through would be forever behind. The 7-year-old boy's act of heroism appeared on all news channels and in the next day's newspapers. However, Carlos never wanted to give any interview, nor did he feel comfortable with his sudden fame. His only concern was that his family was well, and he just wanted to continue with his life as if nothing had happened. What he did was a love act, the greatest and most disinterested of loves, a feeling that only someone with a really pure heart can feel. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.